to everybody watching. So this is Venus Day in the Middle East, and I know there are some more hours to go for that to be so in the Western Hemisphere. I know it's Venus Day, and this is Saturn hour because I hope to release that on a Jupiter hour. So, but this was not a bad election to do it because the ascendant is in 29 degrees Scorpio, so descendant on the anaretic degree, and as the ruler of the day is in the 10th house in Leo, still in orb for squaring the nodes, and Saturn, the ruler of the hour, is in on the IC, um, with the moon applying to conjunct Saturn in 2 degrees Pisces and applying to conjunct Fomalhaut, which is a fixed star. The topic of this episode is basically the ingress of Sedna on June 16th or June 15th, June 16th into Gemini. And so, without further ado, let's go to the chart of the ingress. This is 16 June, and I'm going to kind of enlarge the scope. Here we see Sedna on 0 degrees 0 minutes of Gemini, and look at the moon. The moon ingresses into Gemini. This is a waning moon, okay? It's a decreasing moon, but yet the ingress of Sedna, which is a planet that is the planet, the asteroid that is the slowest moving asteroid, okay, that we know of. Perhaps there are more things that I'm not aware of, but of those asteroids that we can still just look at in the chart without having to add extra stuff in AstroSeek, then Sedna is the slowest moving. Okay, she has been in Taurus for probably the majority of life of most people who were born after, let's say, the Pluto Virgo, maybe even Pluto Leo. So many of us will only experience one Sedna ingress in our life. Some of us won't experience Sedna ingress. And this Sedna ingress happens and coincides with the fastest moving celestial being that we know, which is the moon. And so the slowest moving and the fastest moving have this pivotal point where the moon ingresses into Gemini while Sedna is ingressing into Gemini. And this is on the minute. Okay, we have this. Of course, Sedna probably is there a couple of hours before and the moon catches up. That means that Sedna ingress into Gemini is very much emphasized. It is activated by conjunction by the moon. The moon is our manifesting planet. So we always look at the moon to see what is the moon touching, what other planets does the moon aspect. And when the moon is void, of course, usually we don't begin any project because we don't want, or we do something that we don't necessarily want to continue, because if the moon is not making any aspects, it's highly unlikely that we will have continuity to what we do. So, at the time of the ingress, and then you ask, what is Sedna? So, Sedna is an Inuit goddess of the animals of the sea and the life of the sea, the underground, but not underground, the underworld that is of oceanic kind of, it's not caves, it's not underground, but it's the underworld that is in the oceans, marine life. And the Inuit used to worship Sedna and pray for her to provide for food, and thank Sedna for the seafood that they were getting from the sea. And of course, if you are of Inuit origin, then you probably can expand way more than that. And I would love you to do that in the comments, or if you want to contact me and we can do a collab together, that can also be wonderful. So, Sedna is Sedna's story is quite tragic because she was basically sold by her father, and then she was also assaulted or abused by her man, and the story, one of the stories says that her fingers were cut off as she was in the sea, so she drowned, and then she became the goddess of the underworld. And fingers is something that astrologically is connected to Mercury. Okay, so um, the notion of the betrayal by paternal figure, and now the ruler of the hour here is Saturn. So the notion of betrayal by paternal figure, and um, and the loss of the hands. Okay, so literally she lost her grip on the world. So it's intense story of trigger everything, right? Um, and what Sedna, the wisdom that Sedna brings is the wisdom of a point of view that is so distant, that connects the galaxies, that connects the meridians across the galaxy, the globe, and the human body. That basically the human body is able to see itself as a part of the great vast. Okay. Um, with the moon accentuating on that. So this is going to manifest Sedna-like events. Um, and I have researched and found several uh, people who claim they have Sedna talismans, or have worked with Sedna. It is not as common, so it is not as widespread and it is not as common. Um, and so I don't have anything to tell about how to work with Sedna magically. Okay, if you would like to try that, my belief is that when you turn to the planets, when you turn to the asteroids, when you turn to the spirits, you basically meet them halfway. And so you can meet things to do with those beings and those spirits that are supportive of you. So, if you talk about charity, um, think about children who were sold by their parents and survived, let's say, human trafficking or something like that. Think about people, even people who have had a bad upbringing and the later an unhealthy relationship. Okay, this is also an experience. So charity in the favor of spreading awareness that people don't just walk out of unhealthy relationship or an unhealthy situation, um, because it's way more intricate, both because of sometimes trauma bonding, but also because what happens when they walk out. Okay, what do they meet? um, are there frameworks that support these people? Okay, this is a civil issue. The commoner thinks that they should call the welfare. The welfare kidnaps children, okay? And sometimes they end up in human trafficking, so they sometimes end up at pedophile places. So just to educate yourself to the best of your ability a bit more, to hear testimonials of people a bit more, that can be spreading awareness. If it is charity, I believe in people before funds. So perhaps you can donate. assistance in safe housing, in nourishment, okay? And there is, when I think about Sedna being marine life goddess, I think about the wisdom of um, giving people hooks, not fishes. In this case, you need to give both fishes and hooks because when a person went through a Sedna like experience, um, at this point, they probably can be in a situation where either they are being overactive, okay, so they cannot sleep because they constantly have to do something, or alternatively, they are they sleep so much, and even if they want to go to the bathroom, they have to even magically like do some magic to ask to set intention that they will be able to get up and not, let's say, pee on themselves or something like that. So it can oscillate between these two extremes because the experience that these people have been through is extreme. Okay, all those things can be sadhana honoring. Okay, and sometimes yes, people do need help that somebody would like that somebody else will clean the house, that somebody else would make them food, because at this point, even though they might not be old people, then they might not seem physically disabled, but they're not being lazy. They just went through such exhausting experience on the psyche that they can't possibly um, do it. And so a lot of these people, they sometimes have their children taken away from them and may not be able to see their children even if they are better later, because there is a lot of corruption. And Mercury is also children. Okay, so you have this story of a person who were betrayed by the father and then by the partner and then became human trafficking, which you can get raped and then brought child to the world, and then the child will be taken from the parent, being human trafficking, being, the same things like over and over again. So spreading awareness to this, interfering with the light of consciousness, understanding that the existing frameworks, the existing social structures do not support these people, and we have a lot of stigma over things that we don't understand, um, because it's a different scale. It's a different scale of misfortune. Okay. um, as Sedna is going from Taurus to Gemini, Taurus is about land. Taurus is about clothes. Taurus is about food as well. Gemini is about communication. Gemini is about trade, okay? Is about children. Is about speech. So, one thing I can say to you, if you meet a person that starts speaking to you, and you might, with this ingress, you might start speaking to you, and you don't understand a word of what they say, listen. Stand there and listen, if to the best of your ability. Of course, respect your own boundaries um, as well. Like, it's not about helping people by giving yourself up, because otherwise you become predator-like. But if you can, you just stand there and listen. And even if they're mumbling, you stand there and you listen. And after a couple of minutes, you will notice that they start to speak. And you think, oh my God, it is a miracle. No, it is not a miracle. They are just very anxious or excited or whatnot, and they try to communicate something. And when you listen, then slowly the words would come out, and slowly they will be speaking more clearly. Okay. So you could meet these people at public transportation. You could meet these people online, even in some way, shape, or form. There can be weird communication that you're like, what is going on? And that is something that can happen on a mundane level with this Sedna ingress. Um, Also, it's an invitation to think about our public transportation, our trade system, and our communication system, whether it's social media, cell phones, or whatnot, and how does it serve or allows people to freely escape being trafficked. Okay, we are in a kind of a midst of a world war. So there are a lot of refugees. There are a lot of people who need to escape, and if a person escaped a violent situation, they need to get on the train, they need to get on the tram. We would rather have them travel in the public transportation rather than rely on cars that can take them to where whatnot. Um, they need communication, so they need SIM cards, they need phone, and all those junctures are junctions where they can be caught, where they can be trafficked, they can be kidnapped. So how do we as society make a contribution? If you have a card or a phone where you pay for public transportation and it is within your means, to have some extra money there. Okay, so have some extra money there. So if somebody somehow comes and they don't have a way to pay for that, you can just pay for them. You can just check in and not make a fuss of it. Another important thing to do is not to call the welfare immediately, because they can be escaping from the welfare and shelters from the welfare that were actually abusive, or that had pedophilia there, or that had assault there. So don't assume that you will just call the police, call the welfare, and it will be okay. No, it's up to us, the people, to make sure that the person is safe and that they have a place to stay and that they have food to eat, and that is independent with any authorities. Um, and only with the consent of the person, and even if authorities get interfered, to still not let it go, but not let any authorities have a hold of this person or child, and check, like, like a bulldog. Okay, check, like, lock in your jaws and don't let them take this child. um, Also, it is very important, let's say if you have a parent, okay, and it looks like, oh, this parent is not invested in the children, okay, um, bring food. Okay, bring food to the place. See if they accept your help, because they might distrust you, and for good reasons. Okay, they don't know who you are and why you're doing that, and they're afraid that their children will be taken away. So you can just bring food. Um, if it's or things that can help them clean the house if they need to clean the house, or to clean with them. Um, uh, kind of make sure that the person is seen, that the person is supported, and do not call the police, the welfare, the this, the that, because that might be their get their gate to hell. Okay. um, and the more people who are good people will do that, because good people usually don't have the awareness. Good people usually think that everything is okay, and you just call the police and you call the welfare and they will take care of it, and everything is fine, because they have no idea what is actually going on, and that leaves ways for the predators to do so. And that is a problem. When we have a lot of good people with good awareness that you're both a good person, you also know what to do and what not to do. And also, no, don't just listen to me. Also, listen to voices of survivors, and and again, if a person was survived and was helped by the welfare, understand that this is a singular case that does not tell of the whole cases. Okay, so listen to various people who are giving you knowledge from experience. Okay, so from my point of view, I have been escaping shelter in Israel that became abusive. And then I was in Netherlands, and during the COVID, then they had winter shelters from the municipality of Help, it's the GGD. And I saw, like, I saw the reality because I had that experience, and I was also kind of learning what's happening with the people around me. Why are they there? What helps them? What keeps them away? What's happening? And what is actually going on? I as well was hurt by a psychologist who was both um, checking which children to take away or not to take away. So checking if the parents are good as parents, treating the children, and treating adults who had childhood like trauma. Okay, so I, I learned that it is the same person who checks all these things. It's too much power in the hands of one person, and what happens if this person is abusive. Okay, um, I don't know if Sedna will touch on non-duality, but it can because it's severe trauma. Non-volitional, non-dual experiences can arise, and what you need to know in this case, okay, is that there are approaches like open dialogue. By the way, if you talk about non-volitional, non-dual experiences, one of the vitamins that is helpful is actually niacin, which also treats the heels of the foot, the cracked skin. Again, I thank Dr. Berg for that. Um, it heals the cracked skin. So it's a vitamin that you need in order to heal the cracked skin in the foot, which is funny because what is the foot? It's the root chakra. It's the basis. And so people who had intense trauma, they usually are dissociated or they can be dissociated from the body. And so if a person does not have access to the right food, there's no point in even trying any pill because, and the pills sometimes interfere with absorptions of vitamins. So if a person is homeless, they don't need a pill, they need a home. Okay? If a person needs validation, they don't need a pill, they need validation. And so a lot of these people will go kind of falling between the chairs because um, they would be considered crazy or schizophrenic or this or that. And well, in fact, schizophrenia itself is non-volitional, non-dual experience that is more likely than not a result of either trauma or trauma from abuse of medical substances that was prescribed. Usually, most addictions we have with medical substances are prescribed substances. Um, so yeah, those things, just spreading the awareness, donating time, money to people, just knowing, just knowing that, okay, just knowing. Don't immediately call the police. Don't immediately call the welfare. No, this child will be trafficked to pedophiles. You can't trust anything like that. Just knowing that is already is already meeting planets like Sedna halfway. Okay. Of course, like I said, certain fish that contain niacin, if you can, first of all, eat them if you need to eat them. If you're vegan, okay, fine, like whatever. If you're vegan and you feed your pets something that is with meat, then you can, and you can buy like those types of fish and give them to people um, that need. It can arrive like in canned foods. It's not sardines. There's the other name for that I don't remember in English, but I will. You know what? If I'm doing something that I want to give you the name of those fishes, in Hebrew it's called shprotim, and I want to see where's the spratus. Okay, they have these vitamins, and so you can buy it in canned food. I know it's not the best option. You can buy it in canned food. First of all, it's good for you to eat it yourself. You can bless Sedna as you eat it, as you buy it. You can maybe put some of these fishes as honoring to Sedna or have a Sedna altar if you like that. You can give them to homeless people. You can give them um, uh, to people in need. You can give them to people who endure trauma. Okay, if there's a trauma awareness center, then of the people who do eat these things, then you can provide for them. Or you can spread the awareness that this helps. Um, Again, donation of fish. Okay, also donations of hooks. Likewise. Okay, if there are people who um, want to be able to fish their own food, then to give them hooks. Yes, absolutely. But that is another way that you can honor Sedna. Um, and that is in addition to what I previously said. Okay, if you have a card for public transportation and it's within your means, try to have extra money. So if somebody comes up and they don't have a ticket, that they can pay for the ticket. Or to give such cards, if you can, if it's within your means, to give such cards to homeless people, to give such cards to people you meet in the street. Um, that is another. If you're on social media, okay, sometimes there are people who contact, who make contact, who ask for something, then give them SIM cards, give them cell phones if it is within your means, give them means of transportation that they are safe in. You can donate money to people having their own cars or their driving license, again, because this is Mercury. So turn into Mercury, and to some degrees also nervous system, so things to do with the nervous system. Another thing I ran into today, still in Taurus, but she's already 1 degree forward, and I have Chiron in Gemini, so she's pretty much applying to my Chiron within orb. Um, so I saw on the news there was a case of a baby that was born with a very rare disease that she gets old quickly, okay? And because there's only 150 known cases in the entire world, there's very little that can be done, and there is not enough research on the topic because it is not economical for, you know, medical companies or biomedicine to develop anything relevant. And so immediately what I thought is like, oh my gosh, we really need to have funding for research of rare diseases, of extremely rare diseases, so that these people will not be left out. So aging is kind of a Saturn thing, but child, baby, a rare disease, that can definitely be the beginning of those things where it's one of those cases where it's not necessarily a betrayal by the parents that try to do everything, but the betrayal by society. And this is another issue with Gemini. It's a civil sign, okay? So the betrayal can be experienced by society or by communication. Um, Anything that helps people understand each other, means of translation, um, assisting in clarity of communication, listening to people, all those things can help to make this transition kind of easier. Okay, we are basically called to tackle these things. Okay. Um, and so the moon is decreasing. Just a trine here to Makmak. There is a square to Saturn. Okay, so it's still in the moon is applying to a square to Saturn during the time of the ingress, and again Saturn, so it can be the skin, babies with skin issues, and Saturn is also that paternal figure. Okay, so in this case there can be people or children of a person who is a spy, who is a person who has addiction, or an artistic person, and or a person who deals with non-volitional, non-dual experiences, and then the children are kind of being abandoned, um, or experience this tremendous isolation, because tremendous betrayal and tremendous isolation. So that's a part of the mark of the ingress, and the separation from the sextile to Neptune, okay, which is the ruler of Saturn. So the ingress point is marked with um, people that could be betrayed by the medical field itself, okay, like having such a rare disease that you don't have funding, and it's up to society to help to create the new. Um, and it can be missing children, missing people that were forgotten about, um, and kind of those issues. Um, so the first incident is just, hey, let's take a look at all these things that can happen. There are all these missing people, all these missing children. Um, there are all these people who receive the the wrong type of healing for themselves. Okay, and and turning to Sedna and asking for resilience, for help from Sedna, what to do, and perhaps for protection. Okay, I don't know. Again, it's not something that any human alive now has experienced in the ingress of Sedna to Gemini. So I cannot tell you do this and that magic. I don't know. Okay, we will have to innovate here. Um, the moon is also separating from Vesta at the time of the ingress, which gives us a sense of, like, Vesta in Taurus is dedication to a greater cause. So um, I don't know necessarily what, but the conjoining of Vesta and then the previous, I'll go there, and then Sedna. Um, we may have, on the lighter, we may have a desire to dedicate ourselves to these missions that are Sedna related, or to assist in those cases that are Sedna related. Um, okay, there is a square to Eros. There is a square to Eros at the time of the ingress. That tells me again that the eroticizing children can be an issue. Okay, um, and all these things we would need to create new frameworks as a society, and the great awareness is of how your body is a part of a meridian system that is universal. It's not universal in the same, it's not just global, it's universe. Okay? Now, on a scientific level, we might, throughout this time, have certain discoveries that tie in the, 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 the fragments of the galaxy and the galaxies to the everything of it all, including the human body. And we may understand that this is not that we are the center of the universe, but rather that we are a part of the fabric of the great vast. So whatever will be going through this sadhana will be receiving. So if, for example, it's the moon, then immediately we'll think about, okay, Earth has one moon. And this planet has the so-and-so moons. This planet has so-and-so moons. And what would the astrology look like just with the moons of every planet in every galaxy? We will begin to think far, and we will also be triggered. We will think about the body. So you can, for example, have a carpal tunnel in the fingers. Maybe you've been printing on your phone too much, and then you tend to this carpal tunnel syndrome. But with the sedna, it's not just that you get, oh, I think about my habits, what I print, what I did, what I said, my upbringing, my hands, my speech, my expression. But now you will be also receiving stuff that have to do with similar planets to the planets that are involved in your fingers to in various galaxies, and on how by tapping into your hand there's something in the fabric of these galaxies that you feel. So you can see how people can be left out and isolated when they begin to speak like that. Okay, I've been in hospitals. People do speak like that, but they are being treated. Even though I saw one impressive nurse that said, "Oh, this person is very sensitive to energy, to frequencies that we are not sensitive to." So she was rational, but most people are not on. Like and you cannot blame them for not being rational, but you also cannot standardize anything that touches on um, the gate of life and death, body, like spirit and matter, and this is why healthcare system is very problematic to standardize without falling into um, violence towards people, like simply put. Okay, and but here we will address this more from a nervous system, from communication, and there, because of the nature of Sedna, any communication problem, any even financial decisions issue. Okay, if we think about um, people dealing, it's Sedna in Taurus and emotional eating that follows because of trauma or eating disorders that have to do with traumas around the sexuality and the body. Okay, those times. Um, we recently lost a model at age 25, Saturn maturation, that died in anorexia, and the standards of beauty for her work were so terrible that she became anorectic, and it was not possible for her to recover. She just died. Okay, in age 25, she was struggling anorexia for so many years. So a part of the themes that could have played during this Sedna Taurus is how your eating habits or your supposedly looks regime or beauty regime may actually have to do with certain traumas of betrayal that you experience. Do you know? Oh, do you know the trend of revenge makeup? Revenge makeup. I saw videos, shorts like revenge makeup. It's like, what is revenge makeup? They would put in makeups like, this is revenge makeup, and that was like a person was being left out or betrayed, and then they would make this beautiful makeup and kind of like call it revenge makeup. So it's many things, but it's also this Sedna Taurus thing. It's about our appearance and and dealing with betrayal with using makeup. Okay, so or how do people have relations, or what do people do when they have betrayal in the relations, or if they were cheated, or unhealthy relations, and how their sensuality habits are, and so on and so forth. Just look, a lot of the Taurus thing, and because she moves so slow, it's very difficult to identify, oh, this is Sedna. Here you have to look in retrospective. With Gemini is communication. So we would begin to see how certain people that we that communicate in a weird way. And I don't even mean me. Like, you can understand, even though I have changing accents and they constantly change, and you can probably sometimes see, oh, now she thought about this astrologer, or now she thought about that person, or now she talks about this person, oh, now she remembers the Netherlands again, she begins to speak the Dutch, like, but you understand, you can understand what I speak mostly, even if it's with weird accents. But we can also have this weird communication, and sometimes undecipherable communication, and we will begin to see the connection between our communication difficulties and trauma of betrayal. Okay, that of course can be also related to sexual trauma, but here the betrayal is the issues. The person is not just, it's not just that they went through, let's say, assault. It's the betrayal from society. In this case, it's society. The betrayal from society. It's the betrayal from the people who are supposed to help you. Okay, and when I think about the Sedna Taurus, people would say to me, okay, this person was offender, but the women around him, they supported him. Okay, and that they were more angry at the people who were supporting the offender than at the offender themselves. Okay, and yeah, I've had this too. So Sedna in Gemini, it can be, well, the society around him. What will the people on the train, what were they doing? Would the people on with the people on the road, or with the people in this communication, let's say by a cell phone or a SIM card, with the people at the store that were supposed to sell this SIM card, like, didn't they see? Didn't they, like, can't they just like give this person means of communication because this person escaped from somewhere? Like, what the heck is going on? That is what we're going to be dealing with in a society, um, and, and those are the things that are going to be like, oh my god, this is so unnerving. This is so unnerving. But you also have the chance to be the person who does something different. Okay. Um, Anything more I have to say about this ingress? Well, of course, it's also about trade. And because we are at the fears of a social credit score, that can also be the case where the betrayal takes form of financial violence by society. Okay, the kind of a KGB culture where people are snitching other people, and then the person is disappearing from the face of the earth and cannot do any business transactions and so on and so forth. Um, so that is also something that can be. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Victor, Astro Victor, talked about something like this. So I don't remember all of his ideas. I watched his sadhana in Gemini video, and I will definitely watch it again. I suggest you to watch Victor's video on Sedna. He has a series of courses on the asteroids that I definitely am desiring. Another person who has a series of on the asteroids is um, uh, also with is working also with Lad is Trifon. Okay, and Trifon. Uh, Okay, so Victor is Hellenistic astrologer, and Trifon is. I should begin to offer to get dividends from that, but Trifon is a sidereal astrologer. Okay, and they both have extensive courses on the asteroids, so that both will be interesting to take. I know I want to expand my horizon on asteroids for a while now. And another person who is dealing with asteroids I know is the Truth in Aspect Astrology. She's she's also done great work about the asteroids, so you might want to check that place as well. Um, okay, now now we can do the 12 ascendants, because I think this one is possible to do the 12 ascendants. And let's begin with Gemini ascendant. Gemini ascendant. Now I need to know, where is your Mercury? Okay, where is your it means that Mercury is you. Okay, that can mean that Sedna coming to your first house. First of all, you can experience it in the body, so the nervous system, communication related to the nervous system. Um, you might want to be interested in the type of food that is good for you. Okay, so the sprouts. Okay, you might want to try those. Um, and take a look at your communication habits. Okay, those things can be very, very helpful. So, yes, you are a person who, and I need to see where is Mercury. Okay, because the place of Mercury is the ruler of your ascendant will tell me, and what do you have in the first house other than Sedna? Those things will tell me of the nature of the experience for you. Okay, let's say Mercury is in your ninth house. So you might be traveling or studying higher studies, and then this Sedna experience, it can mean both that you have to betray someone or that somebody betrays you in academia or during traveling. What can you do? Let's say you know you need to travel. You know you need to travel. Um, Try to meet Sedna halfway. Try to make sure you have more than one option to return, and to more than one option to move around. Okay, that if you paid for the hotel, still take money from you. So if this hotel betrays you, you can go to another hotel, or there is accommodation. Make sure that the accommodation is abundant. If you're needing to travel to a place, or maybe to conference, that there is only one room in this hotel and you can only, you know, go there. And if something happens with this room, you have no place to stay, darling. You are homeless. Okay, I have been in shelters with people that it happened to them. um, so those are the things that you can prepare to meet Sedna halfway. It can be that you have to betray someone as well. Okay, this can also happen. Okay, so it can be a conjoining of, hey, somebody breaks your boundaries in such a way that you must cut contact. That can happen, or maybe you are the victim of a Sedna-like experience, which I hope will not happen to you. Um, but then turning to Sedna, asking for Sedna help. Please help me. Please tell me what I need to do. What do I need to learn from this? What will help me? What is the meaning of this experience? That can be perhaps something that can perhaps be useful. Um, so you can feel it on your own body and your life path. Then we need to see where it's Mercury, what's the other planets. Ascendant Cancer. Okay, so for Ascendant Cancer, Sedna is arriving to your 12th house. Now, what is 12th house? So you could be one of the people that I advocate in favor of, because Sedna is jails, is hospitals, is bedrooms, is hotels, is that the non-dual experiences, is the dream state, and of course, unfortunately, also nightmares. And you may have dreams or premonitions around Sedna themes. Okay, immediately I have in my mind somebody. So like immediately I received something from somebody who has 12th house Gemini. Um, and the moon there. So um, you may have certain premonitions regarding Sedna-like themes. You may receive things to do with other galaxies, and also set intention that this will be the case. Okay, set intention that you will receive dreams or premonitions, and work with Mercury. Okay, work with Mercury. Um, that if you are working magically, then you can use. I have the dorky subset by Sphere and Sundry, but it's not the only. Like already, I work in energy with the Froggy subset, so that will probably come up. Certain Christopher Warnock talismans that are mercurial, kind of joined in. I literally told the talismans like, "Bring more you," and you can work with Mercury to gain these premonitions, to gain these dreams, to make this um, a useful transit for you. Okay, because you can learn about the galaxies, you can learn about meridians, you can have astral dreams where you sail to some other galaxy that you don't even know. Those can be also Sedna-like experiences for you. So again, the more you meet the planets halfway, the more they can communicate with you and give you the good experience that they can deliver, because they can. Okay. Hey, Algol is not just being raped and beheaded. Algol is also protecting from being raped and beheaded. Okay, protecting your voice when you speak up about atrocities, blah blah blah. And of course, like without Algol, I would not be able to do this episode. So of course, I'm thanking Algol as well. So working with Mercury, and turning to Sedna. Um, yes, issues like all the 12th house things, so loss, hidden enemies, all of these things can be a theme. Having experiences of betrayal in a hospital, um, or in a jail, or in a hotel, those things can be an issue. Okay, being cut off from communication for those reasons of the 12 can be an issue. set intention, pray for Sedna, set intention. You might want to do this on a Mercury day. Okay, right now I'm speaking about Sedna on a Venus day. Okay, so honoring Venus. And speaking up, making a vlog. It's in my third house about Sedna. But Sedna is entering a Mercury house. So for you, honoring Sedna, if it is the 12th house, then in your bedroom, okay? So when you are in your bedroom, which is signification of the 12th house, um, make a ritual or a meditation or turn into Sedna, and asking for protection and asking for learning things in a way that preserves your well-being. And that is one of the things that can be helpful, as well as working with Mercury. Ascendant Leo. Sedna is entering your 11th house. So, colleagues, conferences, dreams, and goals. That can mean that there can be certain fated experiences of colleagues, or people that you rely, or experiences with crowdfunding. You wanted to have crowdfunding, but you cut off from being able to raise funds or from the people, and so you can feel ostracized. Okay, ostracized is not just the 12th; it's also something unhappy going in the 11th. You can feel ostracized. Um, and you need to understand who is this Mercury. It can also mean that this does not happen to you, but that some colleague of yours is feeling this way. Okay, some friend of yours, some acquaintance is happening, or you may run into acquaintances that have these Sedna-like experiences, uh, and and that will be something you will meet whenever you do your 11th, so whenever you're being public. Okay, so you should stay attentive for that. Um, and you could actually be doing activism and awareness regarding those themes of betrayal, of trafficking of children, of unhealthy relationships, of the social fractures that allow this, of communication, our listening skills, our social media, all these things. You could be activists there, or some of your acquaintances could be activists in those fields. But because it's also the house of goals and dreams, you might have an activist mission to change the face of time in this way. Ascendant Virgo. So for you, Ascendant Virgo, Gemini is the 10th house. And this is particularly challenging position because this means that this Mercury is both you, which Mercury is ruling your first house, but either your mother or your father can be very highly involved in this experience. Okay, those are one of the houses where you could literally have a Sedna. Like, I don't know how old you are, but it can absolutely, unfortunately, on a mundane level, happen. Okay, so um, if you're listening to this now and you're aware, and you can turn to Sedna, and you can turn to Mercury or Hermes, Saint Germain as well. And another thing that I forgot to mention in the introduction, um, honoring Inuit culture. Okay, there is a lot of suicide cases within Inuit people. They live in Greenland, so I'm thankful for the YouTuber who gives us Greenland information. So perhaps you might want to, if there is a way to donate or to spread awareness, for people to receive help. So helping Inuit culture, that can be a certain form of remediation. Um, yes, it can be your boss or you as a boss, of course, but you are one of the ascendants that I am most concerned about, that can be something that happens to you with your parents, that the myth of Sedna can play out for you in a certain way. Um, it's a transit, so it's a very long transit. Okay, um, and this is why I say, okay, learn about this asteroid, learn about this asteroid, and here the 10th house is also your public relations, what you are known for, so that can affect your reputation. Or you could be considered offender when you are actually the victim, but this is by your boss, okay? Or where you are a boss. It's not likely when you are a boss, because if you are a boss, then you have the power. But if it is um, by your boss, then that can be a situation where you could be considered like a villain, and it's actually you that was betrayed by this boss. It can be also a parent. So that can be something that affects your social status, your reputation, and that is where you want to address. Watch the introduction, okay? Watch the introduction where I said a lot of things that I predict can assist with this transit. And then it's prediction. No, there is no living astrologer that has experienced Sedna in Gemini. Okay, so we are all guessing. Ascendant Libra. Gemini is your ninth house. So for you, it can be somebody from abroad. It can be somebody who is a teacher. It can be religious. If you go to a certain religious institution, then that can be an authority figure there. And they would be more like a judge, like a trade, or like a childlike quality, kind of mercurial, or could be trickster. But it can also be a person who seems very trustworthy and is considered trustworthy because they're great communicators, and you can experience that sort of betrayal. So if you're having a degree, okay, what can you tend to now so that you don't rely on a particular person or a particular group of people that have this one person in common? So if you say goodbye to your instructor today, what are your options? Okay. If it is traveling, again, means of transportation, stuff like that, try to have more than one cell phone, try to have more than one card or ticket or for public transportation. Even if you do have a car and you travel by car or by plane, even if you have a car, you rent a car there, try to also have public transportation tickets so that you don't get left out and you don't have to depend on people, because it is society abroad that can let you down. So um, and of course, in the case that you are the instigator of this, then if you have Venus in Gemini, then you could be also the instigator of this. Then, um, first of all, then that can happen. Okay, so yeah, it's not always, when people are betraying others, it's happening many times because of not having an option. Okay, it's not having an option sometimes. Ascendant Cancer. um Gemini is so Sedna is entering your 8th house, and those Sedna themes can come about when you deal with inheritance, with your own will, okay, with your savings, any shared funds that you have with other people. um, those become less reliable. It may be that you have to walk out. It may be that you have to go short on some investment, or somebody has to go short on some investment in you. And again, that betrayal may be simply because um, they don't have a choice. Okay, Maybe they don't have the money suddenly, and now they have to go short on the investing in you, and this is like your business or something. So all these things that I said in the introduction, those are things that, in addition to honoring Inuit culture and Inuit people, those are things that you can do. If you are supposed to give birth or to get pregnant at this time, um, turn to Sedna and spread awareness regarding. I know it sounds like the most difficult thing to do. If it is within your means, somehow emotionally as well as psychologically as well, okay, it's not. Don't try to go beyond your boundaries, because that's not the way to go about this. um, it, Set intention to tend to that. Okay, sometimes just set intention, say I'm tending to that. I'm tending to that. Right now it's overwhelming for me, but I'm not forgetting about it. I'm tending to that. I'm asking, I'm praying. um, and yes, it can be the, children that are being stolen from their parent at the birth, all those types of things, right? If you need to use a person who assists you, who carries the baby for you, for various reasons, then there can be issues around that, okay? And there, what you can do is again tending to that. What you can do is turn to sadhana. Um, And if you have been in any way judgmental towards parenting, towards children, towards people who give birth, towards the way people grow their children, towards all these things, then it's a good time to have a ceremony of repent. Okay, kind of like repent, acknowledge, say, okay, I have been misguided, I have not been compassionate, I have not been aware, and I ask to repent the way in which I saw these people, the way in which I saw these experiences, and that can also help you meet things halfway. Um, so that is, and of course, because it's a house of energy or psychic attack, non-dual stuff, um, respect for various interpretations of reality. Okay, if and this is another thing you can add to your repent ceremony. So if you have been seeing people talking about things that seemed crazy to you, it's a good thing to kind of keep in mind that you don't know it all, and repent if you have been given a certain vibe or held a certain opinion or a belief that these people are crazy, or that what they say is probably they're psychotic, they're this, they're that. This is a good time to do this repent, okay? Because you might have non-dual experiences yourself, or tending to like having to protect yourself from psychic attack on all these things, because it's also of the 8th house, so the 8th, the 12th, and so on. So if it is on the point of repenting or spreading awareness about non-volitional, non-dual experiences, energy intercourse, and the ethics around that. So willing consent also applies to energy encounters. All these things. If you have been doing energy encounters and the person has not been consenting, and you thought, oh, they don't feel it in the physical, this is a good time to repent. This is a good time to set intention to say, okay, I want to have those energy encounters willingly consensual, and so on and so forth. And of course, if you need to learn about how to protect yourself, then set intention and ask Sedna also for that. Ascendant Sagittarius. Gemini is in your 7th house. Gemini in your 7th house, Sedna is coming to your 7th house. So, um, well, while the ascendant before you, okay, the ascendant Scorpio can say good riddance to Sedna leaving their 7th, you are now embarking on uh, the asteroid of betrayal by the father and the partner and becoming the queen of the underworld and the fishes in the sea, which basically are supposed to help your immune system to deal with non-dual, non-volitional experiences, is coming to your house of intimate encounters, sex with the long-term partner, marriage, business partnerships, and open enemies. For long, okay? You're one of the ascendants that definitely need to go back and watch the introduction. You're one of the ascendants. They need to go also and watch Victor and watch whichever astrologers that will bring up good information about Sedna. Maybe you want to buy the book about Sedna. I don't remember. I have one of my Study Life with Me episodes. There is a book that was written about Sedna and the meridians of the galaxy and how they reflect in the body. Okay, I would definitely want to allocate resources for this book. If I were you, I would buy this book today. And I don't even know who wrote it. Okay, just and even if this, let's say, even if you bought something or you invested something, that thing was not what you were looking for and was not informative. At least when you do that, make the purchase, you set the intention. Okay, you set the intention. Set the intention to ask Sedna. I'm doing this. I'm making this purchase. I'm listening to this video. I'm doing this to meet you halfway. To, to to learn how to work in your with your energy in a way is benefic for me, and I know that if I'm a fractal of the universe, then healing myself and being in alignment with the energy is healthy for the universe on a certain scale. I'm not indispensable. I'm not the entire universe. I'm a speck in the dust, but I'm also indispensable at the same time. And and that is a good reasoning that Sedna would definitely assist you. So again, go and watch the introduction, because those Sednas, who is Sedna? It is your partner. It is your business partner. It's the man or the woman you sleep with, or the day that you sleep with. Could be someone you know is your enemy, and 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 this ingress is accentuated by the moon. Okay, so it's a felt ingress. It's June 16th, the felt ingress. Ascendant Capricorn. For you, Sedna is in the sixth house of physical health, pets. Um, so for you, you might run into pets that were abandoned, that went through something, or maybe something with their paws or something like that was wounded, or their speech was wounded in some way, or the nervous system, if you have nervous system issues, and if it is within your means, and you feel called to do so, because you will feel called to do so, then you can take care of these pets. And it may be that Sedna brings such pets to you. Okay, then you are the caretaker of such pets. Okay, that can be the case. Um, it can also be you as an employee and your employees. So maybe you have a business that hires people that went through certain violations, and what you think they need, then you need to learn from them, and they need to learn about themselves, because you will find out that, hey, there are so many things that you didn't know, like you wanted to do a good thing, and then there are so many things you didn't take into account, and so on and so forth, and so you will be like, you feel um, like you wanted to do a good thing, and you might be in a situation where you say, okay, I have to close the business, I have to let these people go, I cannot, and so you are the betrayer, without your needing to. It's just you want to be financially responsible. But if you turn to Sedna and you meet her halfway, then perhaps you can ask for guidance on how to do this correctly. Okay, it is also relating to your own physical health. So taking care of a pet can be very beneficial with everyone, everyone, because that literally means that you tend to a pet rather than taking these ailments on your body. You care for a pet that they won't have these ailments, and the pet pretty much cares for you. So it's always good. And you will see pets showing up in your life. When I was in between houses, so homeless, I would follow the dogs, follow the cats, follow this, and they will always take me somewhere. Sometimes it's the person that comes with the dog, and I can go immediately after him and then uh, um, uh, get out of the train, okay, without paying a ticket. Sometimes it has to do with food. Sometimes it's just a jolly dog that's smiling and so on and so forth. So um, follow these pets, follow these pets. Okay, that can be very useful for you. Caring for a pet, and they'll come to you probably. Um, that can be a very good remediation. Chavez. And and that can assist you also in dealing with your own health. So even if you will have a health issue, nervous system issue that affects the communication, that affects your hands, because of the risk of amputation, then I would look to bloodstream and bone structure. So it's a good time to bring sprouts into your diet. All these things that you can watch in the introduction are valid. Ascendant Aquarius. So for you, Gemini is the fourth house. No, it cannot be. It's the fifth house. Pardon? The fifth house. Gemini is the fifth. So fifth is creative projects, fifth is children, fifth is gambling as well. But in this case, um, you could either be betrayed by people that you do something fun. So things that are fun might not feel that fun while Sedna is in the fifth. So your idea of fun would need to be revised. And another thing is children. So it can be your children, and there can be themes of betrayals in the relations with children. Okay, and this can play both ways, both that you are betraying your children, maybe because you don't have money, maybe because you're not healthy or sound or resilient enough, maybe because society is not allowing for you to keep your children or something like that. And you can also be feeling betrayed by your children. Okay, maybe your children cut contact with you and you don't understand why on earth are they doing that. Sometimes they're doing that for the wrong reasons, sometimes they're doing it to save their sanity. So all of those themes can play out, and when you tend to Sedna, then you can gain assistance. Can't guarantee that you won't have the bad experience, but it will definitely be assisted and facilitated, and whatever help that can be served to you by the universe will be served. Because again, if you're a part of the fabric of the universe, then your being well is good for the universe. Okay? When it's our time to go, it's our time to go. But other than that, there's no reason to not assist you. And of course, everything I said in the introduction regarding children, transportation, all these things, you want to listen to, please, you are one of the ascendants most need to listen to the entire introduction. Allocate time for that. Play it in 1.5 plus if you're finding it difficult to listen, but please listen to the entire introduction because you are one of the ascendants that need it the most. Um, Ascendant Pisces. Gemini is your fourth house, so fellow Ascendant Pisces. Um, well, fourth house. So, your family of origin or the house that you are building. It's difficult. And this is for many, 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 many years that Sedna will be here. So your home, simply put, home, housing, um, yes, and fourth house is also grave. It's also elementary school, but if you make an altar in your home to Sedna and work with Mercury and pray to Sedna, uh, um, honor your ancestry, okay? Honor Inuit culture. Perhaps you want to, um, and again, in Inuit culture, there are a lot of people who die of suicide in Inuit communities in Greenland. So maybe you can allocate resources, maybe you can travel to Greenland, maybe you can do something. I know it's fourth house, but because this is ancestors, because fourth house is also grave, and so because so many people die there of suicide, then perhaps there is something you can contribute, perhaps there is something you can assist to with these people. Maybe it's even to travel, to be with people, or because most people don't have a framework where they can talk about their emotions, um, and 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 have a place dedicated to Inuit culture in your home, maybe altar. Like bring Sedna in, okay, but in a way that is contributing. And when you do that, do it with the intention that she would protect you. That say, Sedna, please, what can I do for what can I do for your people or for the things that you govern, that I can do it in time that can protect us from experiencing betrayal, which is a very difficult human experience. What can be done? Okay, what can be done? What is within my means to do? And maybe I don't see it. Please, Sedna, show me how can I do something and tend to it every day. That can be regarding housing. Okay, so allocate money, allocate time to assist in housing people who were betrayed by Sedna-like experiences, um, advocating for housing first projects. Okay, so advocating for housing first projects, um, tending to your ancestors. Okay, so having a ball of fish in your ancestral altar and having an ancestral altar within your means, tending to healing ancestral relations, um, and tending to it. First of all, tend to it, to what you can yourself. If you need ancestral healing, that depends on what do you have. Okay, I have Chiron in the Gemini first to 0 degree in conjunct Pluto and Neptune. I will need to find it. I will need to do it myself. It's not something I can pay money to this person who can be very talented, and I know some talented people. But for you, maybe you don't have Chiron, and maybe for you it's actually possible to go and do an ancestral healing, and you can be very benefited from that. So um, those are the things that can be. Is there a risk of that? Well, as with anything fourth, when it's perfected, when it's this, when it's that, eventually it's one of the houses of death. Um, when it's our time, it's our time. I wouldn't necessarily be concerned about this. Um, and it doesn't necessarily mean that if you die, you will have Sedna-like experience. Not at all. Your Sedna-like experience can be actually, if let's say you cross over, then you see the meridians of the galaxy, and it doesn't necessarily have to be due to Sedna, um, due to the betrayal aspect of Sedna. Um, so yeah, like it doesn't have to be doom and gloom, but definitely I would learn more about this asteroid, and I would work with Mercury as well to assist you Mercury is also door and doorways. Okay, so if you can have an open door in your house for people who need it, okay, and you say, of course, all those things can bring Sandla like experiences. Yes, unfortunately, yes. Okay, I'm a full Pisces ascendant. It's my fourth house. I, I don't have anything wise to say, right? But what can you do to meet Sadhna? Halfways, okay? Um, think about mobile houses, think about ancestral healing, think about allowing people the space outside their families that can eventually assist them. Think about being there for people who had to cut contact with a family of upbringing, or you will need to cut contact, or you maybe your family of upbringing cuts contact with you. And sometimes it is, I've been watching now, and Sudden is applying to conjunct my Chiron from Taurus. There's a young woman who had the story, and she tells it publicly in shorts on YouTube, that her father used to beat up her mother. She was protecting her mother physically, and then her father abused her, and then he abandoned her to the street. So she was in the street. And then after she managed to somehow like recover, and she had unhealthy relationships, unfortunately, because of that. She's very young. And the parents wanted to make contact with her, and she's like, no, I cannot. I must cut contact because you make me feel like I'm worthless. So um, if you can have if you can lend an ear to people who tell such stories, and you can share their stories, and you can validate them, and you can give them like the support, and if they need assistance in where to live, where to stay, that can also be useful. If you are this person, then of course I have you in my prayers, um, and whatever is within your means of turning to Sedna, of praying to whoever you need to find your way to recover, and to live a meaningful life, and a joyous life, because you deserve to live meaningful and joyous life. Um, so yeah, Ascendant Aries. Sedna is entering your third house, and that is the house of siblings and neighbors. That is the house of business, applied skill, and public transportation, means of communication. Um, anything like watch the like literally watch the introduction, and anything that I will say now will be just repeating the introduction. The introduction is quite long, but it's important for you to watch, because with your business, with your skill, you will be one of the voices that could be having Sedna teachings throughout the years. And again, of course, work with Mercury, and then know where your Mercury is, and who can be the people who betray you. It can be the neighbors, it can be siblings, okay. And it doesn't necessarily mean, okay, I've had Pisces ascendant, so Sedna was in Taurus. One of the things that happened to me with sibling was that they were trying to make contact with me, and then when I was in between two houses, they simply did not reach out, okay. And it was COVID, so they were afraid for their health, maybe, I don't know, maybe did not know how to deal with that, but they simply did not reach out. So they weren't selling me, they weren't doing anything actively, they were just kind of like not reaching out. We were supposed to be meeting, and they were not reaching out. um, and that was a part of the Sedna like experience, okay. Oh, and I had neighbors being weird, but also I had a lot of support from neighbors. By the way, okay, I had a lot of support from neighbors. When Sedna was on Algol, I worked with Algol, and then the same neighbor that said things that were very triggering to me, because they cared for my property, and I felt like they care for my property but more than they care for me. But that neighbor makes sure that I will have my belongings back to me when I found a place to stay. Okay, so Here is an example, okay? Sedna was on Algol. I worked with Algol, and I got my belongings back by a neighbor. And not only that, that neighbor publicly said, recently I found out that you're a very clean person in your heart. Okay, it's like your motives are very clean. And they said it publicly. Okay, they said recently I, because maybe they were questioning them and they had their own life experience. And that is one of the things that can happen for you. If you work with Mercury, okay, then you might have the eurekas about how to communicate with your neighbors, with your siblings. And the sense of trickery that you need to go around these situations or to tackle these situations uh, so that you can become the winner. Not necessarily the upper hand. It doesn't mean you have the upper hand on someone. Sometimes it's just like, oh, you can see eye to eye. You can see each other. You can understand each other. You can have an understanding. You can have an agreement that you both respect. By the merit of working with the planets involved. Okay, it doesn't mean that you necessarily won't experience any betrayal, but betrayal doesn't have to be this intense situation, um, but it can be mitigated. It can be that it can also be that you see it from a miles ahead, and Mercury can kind of give you this learning how to play it, how to flip things, so that you um, tackle it. Okay, don't forget, Rohini Nakshatra is in Gemini. If you have Rohini Nakshatra, something on Rohini Nakshatra, if you have something around Aldebaran, um, I know Spirit and Sundry had a Mercury on Aldebaran. It was waning moon, but I have the Dorky subset and I love it. I know Christopher Warnock has various Mercury talismans that you can work with, and because Sedna is entering Mercury sign, then you can work with if it is protecting your business, and so on and so forth. And when you work with the talisman of Mercury, this is a tip by Caitlin, is you ask it to remediate the planet that you want to remediate. She said it for the natal chart, but I say, okay, maybe try to do this also for Sedna. Okay, if it doesn't work for you, then I'm the one who said to you that, not somebody else. Okay, if it does work for you, then honor the creativity of Caitlin for inventing math. Ascendant. So ascendant Taurus. So last but not least, ascendant Taurus. Gemini is your second house. Sedna is going. First of all, good riddance. Sedna is leaving your first house. Okay. Matters of help, well-being, your life path would go more smoothly now than they ever have been since probably the day you were born. And you can have some relief. Now, yeah, you still have Sedna in your in your natal chart. It doesn't mean that you will get rid of all Sedna-like experiences related to your natal placement. No, and that's a general saying. But you will definitely have a relief from the transit in Sedna in your first house. But then she comes to your second. Your second is income. Your second is the skill that you apply to make a living. Is your values, and it can also be your confidence, is your self-value, and the money that you make by yourself. So they can be. You can. Okay. Due to your values, okay, you may feel betrayed. You may feel that your values are changing as a result of betrayal. You may the value of of trust is going to receive a different meaning for you. Um, your communication skills, perhaps you need to be worried about somebody betraying you, if you rely on saying something or communicating something, um, and you rely on secrecy, then I would not suggest you to continue to do that, because in Sedna, betrayed of communication, okay? Betraying your communication, something like that. Other than that, you can actually develop the magical ability to work with Sedna if you work with Mercury, and you may have the skill developing to, because what Mercury does, Mercury is the doorway, so it's the gate to other worlds, and so you could use Mercury as a gateway to Sedna, and that would be a very good and correct use to do so, okay? Because you will basically have a doorway into another realm that you can use to write, to speak, to even make products around, if it's talismanic or something like that. It's magical because Mercury is also alchemist. Meridian-based medicine it can play a bigger role, cosmology and meridian stuff. Like, but with you, it's more applied. Like, you're gonna do something, you actually apply that hands-on experience to something that is a small product that you can sell on a mass scale. That being said, experiences of betrayal may be a part of the process, or you may develop dealing leadership around how to tackle issues of betrayal. Somebody betrays you. What do you do? Okay, and depends what you have in the second, and so on and so forth. So you may be one of the teachers of resilience or tackling issues and so on and so forth. That is for the ingress. It's happening on the 16th of June. So we still have time, and I really hope I get to release this on a Mercury hour. I have no idea even if the moon is void, of course, or not, but we'll check it. Thank you so much for watching. You can share this video if you feel like you know someone who would benefit from learning about this. Then you can share the video, or you can share the insights that I shared with other people. It is relevant to entire humanity. So, um, yeah, that was me, Shirley, with Spirit of Matter.